What all we put on through, like two old balls of blue. Ponder life and death, and say
Guys, it's sagging in the front.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is indeed a great day to be in North Attleboro. Isn't that right, Sergeant Major? It is. Thank you all for coming out today. And on behalf of the town of North Attleboro, I want to welcome you to today's Memorial Day Remembrance Ceremony. Today, we gather to honor and remember the brave men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the service to our nation. Memorial Day is a poignant reminder of the cost of freedom, a cost borne by those who have laid down their lives to protect the values of what we hold dear. As we stand here today, in reflection, I am reminded of President Abraham Lincoln's words that he delivered at the Gettysburg battlefield, where he spoke of those who gave the last full measure of devotion and ensured that these dead shall not have died in vain. Today, we are honored to have several distinguished guests with us. We recognize our guest speakers, whose words will help us remember and honor the fallen. It is a pleasure today to have Senator Paul Feeney, State Representative Adam Scanlon, our Town Council Vice President John Simmons, one of our very own residents and economic development coordinator that I work with, Mr. Lyle Perney, and our keynote speaker today, Lieutenant Colonel retired Greg Mayer. I would also be remiss if I did not recognize Cass Salemi. Thank you, sir, our World War II veteran. And our other town council members who are here today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. And I also want to send a very special thank you to a good friend of mine, Command Sergeant Major Steve Travers. Thank you, sir. As a solemn tribute to those that we've lost, those who were captured, and those who are still missing, we've brought our missing man chair. This chair, donated by the Rolling Thunder, usually resides in the town hall lobby. Today, it occupies a place of honor here at the front, serving as a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by our brave service members. And of course, I'd like to thank everybody who has participated in the parade this morning. The North Attleboro Electric Department that helped us with all the flags along the parade route, the North Attleboro Fire Department, the Department of Public Works, our local veterans organizations, the American Legion, the DAV, the VFW, scouts from Troops 2-3 and Pac 12, the Metro West Jeep Club, our classic car owners, Rolling Thunder, Colonial Pipers, the 13th Continental Regimental members, Minutemen from Rehoboth, our local Elks Lodge 1011, the North Attleboro High School Band here to our left, as well as the Massachusetts Military Vehicle Collectors Club. Thank you all. Thank you all for making this day very special and even more memorable. But most importantly, I'd like to recognize some of our distinguished guests and families of our veterans. Your courage, your dedication, and your sacrifice are the foundation upon which our nation stands. Your presence here today serves as a testament to the enduring spirit of service and the profound impact of those who have gone before. To our veterans, we offer our deepest gratitude. Your service and sacrifice ensure that we live in a country that remains a beacon of hope and freedom. And to the families of the fallen, we extend our heartfelt sympathies and our eternal thanks. Your loved ones' bravery and commitment to our nation will never, never be forgotten. Although they may not hear your applause today, the glory is all theirs. As we proceed with today's ceremony, let us remember that Memorial Day is not just a day of remembrance, but also a day of reflection and commitment. We are charged with the solemn duty to ensure that the sacrifices made by our fallen heroes continue to inspire us to work towards a better, more just world. So thank you all for being here today. Let us honor the memory of our fallen heroes with dignity and respect that they deserve. God bless you all. God bless America. Ladies and gentlemen, I would ask that you please stand and remain standing for the opening prayer, the presentation of colors, and the national anthem. Please welcome DAV Chaplain Manny DeSorda. Chaplain?
Let us remember before God today those who sacrificed during times of war in order that we might have liberty, freedom, and security. Veterans, both living and dead, who fought on land, in the air, and in the water. The men and women in labor and industry who provided the machinery, weapons of war. Eternal God, who alone rules the destinies of nations and who has deemed that men and women should live together in peace. We pray for those who fought a good fight and finished the course. On this day, we call remembrance of those who served in far-off places and have laid down their arms to march into the land of eternal peace. We also call for the remembrance of veterans who served in the armed forces of our nation and contributed to the greatness of the national defense. We are indeed grateful for their service and sacrifice. And if it were not for the men and women in our factories, and the victories would not have been sustained. Keep sacred all their sacrifices in your hearts. Keep holy our course in your sight, and kindle within the flame of selfless, unwavering devotion to duty, that we may never be found wanting in those qualities of spirit and mind which alone are able to preserve our homes, the peace of our nation, the tranquility of the world, and you, holy name, in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, John. Color guards, bring your units to attention and present arms. Order, horse! Parade, press! Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. And let's give the band a great round of applause for that rendition of the national anthem. It's truly a pleasure this morning to be able to have the Colonial Pipers here today, and they're going to provide a rendition of America the Beautiful. I am truly honored today to be a part of this ceremony, and because I'm surrounded by friends and family members in an extremely awesome town. So one of the first friends you're going to hear from this morning, an old tin can sailor. And those of you know what that means, it's not a disparaging remark. But I have the pleasure and the honor of introducing Kevin Poirier. And today he's going to read Logan's Prayer. And this is a tradition that we've done here in North Attleboro for a very long time. So Mr. Poirier, sir.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. What I'm about to read goes way back, goes back to the Civil War. But we've been doing this reading as long as I have lived in this community. I mean, I have done it for roughly 20 years, and my friend Jim Magnan did it as long as I lived. So it's a long address, but this is the order that actually established Memorial Day. And I will start off. Adjutant General John A. Logan's Memorial Day Order. General Order Number 11. Headquarters, Grand Army of the Republic, Washington, D.C., May 5th, 1868. The 30th day of May, 1868, is designated for the purpose of strewing with flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who died in defense of their country during the late rebellion, and whose bodies now lie in almost every city, village, and hamlet churchyard in the land. In this observance, no form or ceremony is prescribed, but posts and comrades will, in their own way, arrange such fitting services and testimonials of respect as circumstances may permit. We are organized comrades, as our regulations tell us, for the purpose, among other things, of preserving and strengthening those kind of fraternal feelings which have bound together the soldiers, sailors, and Marines who united to suppress the late rebellion. What can aid more to assure this result than by cherishing tenderly the memory of our heroic dead, who made their breasts barricade between our country and its foes. Their soldiers' lives were the reveille of freedom to erase in chains, and their death a tattoo of rebellious tyranny in arms. We should guard their graves with sacred vigilance. All that consecrated wealth and taste of a nation can add to their adornment and security. Is but a fitting tribute to the memory of the slain defenders. Let no wanton foot tread rudely on such hallowed grounds. Let pleasant paths invite the coming and going of reverent visitors and fond mourners. Let no vandalism or avarice or neglect, no ravages of time testify to the present or to the coming generations that we have forgotten, as a people, the cost of freedom in undivided republic. If other eyes grow dull, and other hands slack, and other hearts cold in their solemn trust, I shall keep it well as long as the light and warmth of life remain in us. Let us, then, at the time appointed, gather around their sacred remains, engalling this passionless mounds above them with choicest flowers of springtime. Let us raise above them the dear old flag they saved from dishonor. Let us, in the solemn presence, renew our pledges to aid and assist those whom they have left among as a sacred charges upon the nation's gratitude. the soldiers and sailors, widows, and orphans. It is the purpose of the Commander-in-Chief to inaugurate this observance with the hope it will be kept from year to year, while a survivor of the war remains to honor the memory of his departed comrades. He earnestly desires the public press to call attention to this order and lend its friendly aid in bringing it to the notice of comrades in all parts of the country, in all simultaneous compliance therewith. Department commanders will use every effort to make this order effective. By command of John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief, N.P. Chipman, Adjutant General. Thank you.
Again, it is indeed my honor to welcome another friend, a friend of North Attleboro who was raised in Boston, in Rosendale and Jamaica Plain neighborhoods, State Senator Paul Feeney. Now calls Foxborough home, and we'll convince him to move to North Attleboro one day very soon. But he's a dedicated, hard-working man of the people. He tirelessly serves those who he represents and has a long history of active community involvement. Please join me in welcoming State Senator Paul Feeney.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Borg. It is always a wonderful day to be in North Attleboro, as I have heard you say once or twice. It's an honor, it really is, to be here on this beautiful day. Thank you to our veterans that are gathered with us, our local and state officials, our town council, clergy, students, the wonderful band, scouts, active military, our police officers, our firefighters, our chiefs, first responders, of course, to my former colleague, Representative Betty Poirier, her able assistant, who we just heard from, former Representative Kevin Poirier, and especially to our Gold Star families, especially to our Gold Star families. It is an honor and a blessing to join with you today here in North Attleboro as we participate in a tradition that reveals the character of our community and the soul of our nation. Despite the difference of opinions expressed about the topics of the day, or the angst that comes with the challenges of just trying to get by, we take at least one day, Memorial Day, to join together in community on patches of grass like this across the Commonwealth and across our great nation, to pause, to remember, to reflect, and to honor, even just for a moment. This moment, we have the gift of this opportunity to let the stress of our own lives, the troubles that may be occupying our minds, or the differences we may have with our neighbors, we have the opportunity to let those just melt away, even for a moment. Right now, we can do that, and I encourage us all to do so. We do that, we have that opportunity, freedom, and ability for us to be able to slow down and pause, because it's been bestowed upon us by brothers and sisters and siblings that don't live to fight another day. Men and women that lost the most sacred gift that we all have today, a tomorrow. Let's pause and ask ourselves, if we all knew right now that tomorrow may not come, would we spend our time fighting against each other or fighting for each other? So many in times of crisis and challenge decided that it was more important to fight for each other. Whether it was a revolution sparked by a desire for independence, a band of brothers responding to bullies on the block across the world, the fight for our democratic values in the jungles of Southeast Asia, the fight on a line in Korea, or the war against terror that knows no bounds and takes no prisoners. We have been blessed to have men and women among us, including from right here in North Attleboro, in each generation, who left the safety of their neighborhoods, the comfort of their living rooms, and the embrace of their loved ones, knowing that they themselves may never return to that warmth, but also knowing that it was worth fighting, sacrificing, and even dying for generations to come. We remember and reflect upon their sacrifice by erecting memorials, which we see around us, by flying flags, by saying their names, and by telling their stories. As a community gathered here today, however, we actually become a living, breathing memorial, bringing life to reflection that can't be found in stone or granite, but one that gives a heartbeat to remembrance and a soul to our reflection. That's why today, Memorial Day, is so important. If we are the reason why they gave their lives, then it is us that must gather to show gratitude for their sacrifice and reverence for their actions. That is our obligation. That is what we are called upon to do, as we just heard from Mr. Borg. As simple as it may seem at times, we need to challenge ourselves to take action. Because to truly honor those who gave their lives, to support the Gold Star families who mourn incredible tragedy and true loss, we should take our own moral inventory, even if it's just today. Take our own moral inventory and ask if we are living our own lives and building our community and our nation in a way that is worthy of their sacrifice and consistent with the values and ideals that they fought and died for. It can be tough. There is no doubt about that. But as we strive still to form a more perfect union, we only have that chance because the people that we remember today fought and died for our ability to do so. So let's honor them by recommitting ourselves to the community in their name. Let's use today to pause, to remember, to reflect, and to honor those we have lost in defense of our nation and our ideals. Let's use each day after Memorial Day, each day after this weekend, to live our lives in a way that is worthy of their sacrifice. I'm honored to be here with you today to do just that. I want to thank you for your presence, and especially those that have brought young people and students, as my grandfather often did. It is contagious. We cannot let days like today go by the wayside. We must continue to inspire generations by our words used as a call to action, to continue not only to remember, to pause, to reflect, and to honor, but to continue in a way that to live our lives out in a way that is worthy of their sacrifice. I thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to listen to these words today. May God bless the town of North Attleboro and our veterans. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much.
Senator Feeney, thank you. Challenge accepted. Our next speaker this morning is someone else I call a friend. But most importantly, a native son of North Attleboro. State Representative Adam Scanlon, elected in 2021, now represents the 14th Bristol District here in Massachusetts in the House of Representatives. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Representative Adam Scanlon.
Good morning, everyone. As our town manager often said, it is a great day to be in North Attleboro. But every day is a great day to remember and think of those who gave all to serve our country and those that are actively serving. I'm very glad to be here with you on this day when we remember and honor those who fought and gave their lives for our nation. It is only right that we take a moment to recognize their sacrifice, which made possible our enjoyment of this weekend at the start of summer with our friends and family and good food. It is right that we enjoy this weekend, as that is what so many of our fallen heroes would want. I personally think of our World War II memorial pool that our veterans helped build with their war bonuses after the war. That's a symbol of their bravery and gratitude for this country. All of our veterans who have served, sacrificed for the liberty of their countrymen and for the welfare of our nation. And it is times like these when we see instability and conflict across the world, but not on our shores, that we must remember that it is thanks to the sacrifice of our service members and veterans, including those who gave the ultimate sacrifice, as well as our Gold Star families and spouses of military families, that we are able to enjoy beautiful days like today in peace and tranquility. They have proven the words of President Kennedy that we, quote, shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. By remembering the brave and selfless individuals, I personally remember the heroic acts of Kyle Van de Giesen and his family, who was from right here in North Attleboro, who flew helicopters in Afghanistan and unfortunately died in action in 2009. But today, I am proud to say that as a Commonwealth, that we are doing more than just words to honor and recognize our fallen heroes and veterans. It takes action. And I'm proud to say that this week, the House of Representatives in Boston did that. On Wednesday, the House passed the HERO Act, an act honoring, empowering, and recognizing our service members and veterans. This bill raised incentives to employ veterans, raised the state payments to disabled veterans, and created options for towns to expand veterans' property tax abatements and peg them to inflation. We want to make it as easy as possible for veterans to transition into civilian life, to be able to take care of their families, and to stay in their homes. I'm very personally happy to say that this bill included 2 pieces of legislation that I have filed and pushed for since I got there. These include provisions allowing veterans with medical field experience a streamlined option to get EMT certification. I thank my predecessor, Rep. Poirier, for working on this as well. These veterans and medics have already undergone rigorous training and have proved themselves in their medical skills in the military. When this becomes law, they will be permitted to forego the EMT course and take the test to be certified. I'm proud to have pushed for this to make their transition to civilian life as easy as possible so they can continue their important work. Additionally, I'm proud to have pushed to allow veterans who are proud of their service and want to display a sign of it on their license plate to be able to do so without having to pay the additional administrative fee. This was included. These measures and all the provisions in the Veterans Bill are things that I am proud to support for our veterans. We keep all of our veterans who have died in our memories and give them one more opportunity to serve their communities by inspiring all of us to be better and more giving for the good of others. Let us never fail to appreciate what they have done for us. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Rep. Scanlon. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor and privilege of working very closely with the Town Council. And I am absolutely honored to be able to welcome the Council Vice President, John Simmons, today. He has very strong ties to the community. He is a veteran himself. And John brings a tremendous amount of leadership to our local government. And as someone I am absolutely proud to say I'm able to work with and I call a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Town Council Vice President John Simmons.
Thank you all for coming. It's always an honor to represent Town Council at these events. At this time of year, we are often reminded of what today is. We are told that Armed Forces Day is for those currently serving. Veterans Day is for those that have served. And Memorial Day is for those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our great nation. So we know today is not a happy day. but it can be a good day. Being here with all of you is a good thing. Celebrating as a community our fallen is a good thing. Going to the cookouts later with our families and friends is a good thing. But how can we truly honor those that have fallen? I'm going to go one step further than Senator Feeney, and I'm going to ask you all to ask yourselves two questions. And they're not easy questions, and I have no answers for you. You have to come up with these yourself. Are you worth it? Are you worth their sacrifice? Are you living your life in a way that gives honor to their memories? And secondly, are we worth it? Are we creating communities throughout this country that are worth what they paid the price for? And I can say here in North Attleboro, I am proud to say that I think we are. But freedom is only one generation away from extinction. We must continue to live our lives in a way that makes us worth it. Thank you all for coming today, and may God continue to bless America.
Our next speaker is probably the first person I met when I came to North Attleboro. Lyle Perney. He is a West Point graduate, a decorated Vietnam veteran, and currently serves as our economic coordinator here in town. But most importantly, someone I'm proud to say that I've had the opportunity to share more than a few stories with. From jumping out of airplanes to there I was, and do you know? And I recently had the opportunity doing a podcast with Mr. Perney, and I hope you all take the time to listen to it because it reflects on Memorial Day and what it means to veterans. But ladies and gentlemen, a good friend of mine, Lyle Perney. Thank you, sir.
Morning. I'm Lyle Perney. I served proudly in the Army from 1964 to 1973. I hope your Memorial Day weekend is a meaningful one, and by that I mean I wish you an enjoyable weekend, but I also ask that you remember those who are no longer with us. Please join me in remembering the fallen service people who are no longer here and can't be here this weekend. And I hope you remember the purpose of this holiday, but also enjoy your time with your families and friends. And Memorial Day honors soldiers, sailors, airmen and airwomen, and Marines who didn't return home. And as Kevin reminded us, it started just after the Civil War in 1868, when towns and cities began honoring their war dead. The newspapers of the day wrote that the purpose of Decoration Day, as they called it then, was to remember the heroes who gave their lives for freedom, to express gratitude for the bravery of fallen service people, to remember that freedom isn't free. It's paid for with the blood of those that we honor today, and to honor the memory of fallen service people in our hearts so that they're never forgotten. Many notable people, and very honestly are more articulate than I am, have given noteworthy statements about Memorial Day. And I did some research on them, and here are some of the best I found. President Barack Obama said, "Our nation owes a debt to its fallen heroes that we can never fully repay." President Franklin Roosevelt said, "Those who have long enjoyed such privileges as we enjoy should never forget in time that men and women have died to win them." A notable speaker of the 19th century, Joseph Campbell, said, "A hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself." Another notable speaker from that era, Manoj J. Savage, said, "The brave die never, though they sleep in dust. Their courage nerves 1,000 living men." An unknown statement of the day, but one that was widely shared: our flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of each soldier who died protecting it. General George Patton from World War II said, "It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died. Rather, we should thank God that such men lived." President James Garfield said, "For love of country they accepted death, and thus resolved all doubts, and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue." And another statement of the day, the 19th century, was, "We don't know them all, but we owe them all." In closing, I'd like to say that we should all strive to live by the liberties and principles for which our bravest soldiers fell. Their peace lives in our hearts. Please honor America's heroes by repaying them for what they did with your respect this Memorial Day. May the memories of our departed comrades, sons and daughters, give us the strength and motivation to continue working to make our country and our world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Lau. All right, our keynote speaker for today is Lieutenant Colonel retired Greg Mayer. And I'd like to introduce him. You have his bio in the flyer. That tells you everything. But I just wanted to say and call to your attention, just beyond the Desert Seal, Desert Storm Memorial, you'll see the latest and newest memorial, the Global War on Terrorism Monument. And it goes without saying that it wouldn't have happened without Greg. He led the way and made sure that those soldier, sailor, airmen, and Marines who have participated, and as a conflict that I actually participated in, receive recognition there. So Greg, it's a pleasure to have you today, and thank you for what you do for North Attleboro, and we're looking forward to hearing your remarks.
Good morning. Well, honored guests and local officials, especially the friends and families of North Attleboro veterans, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to join you today as we remember and honor the men who made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our great nation. Today, at events like the one here, as well as in other public spaces across the nation, communities come together to remember and to reflect on the service and sacrifice of those who paid the true cost of freedom, our fallen comrades. If you are a resident of North Attleboro, you may have heard of Robert F. Toner Boulevard, or Robert Batchelder Road, or Robert V. Beaupre Circle. These places bear familiar names, but I'm willing to bet that at least some of you have no idea who those people were and how they served our great nation. While the time that we have together today will not allow me to speak of all of the 77 North Attleboro residents who lost their lives during wartime in the 20th and the 21st centuries, I think it is fitting to mention at least a few here today. It is my purpose today to say their names, share their stories, and support those they left behind. I must tell you that in advance that I thoroughly enjoyed my research on our town's veteran heroes. In many cases, there was so much to learn about the lives and actions of these amazing individuals. During World War II, 16 North Attleboro residents lost their lives while serving in our armed forces. If you're ever interested, you can see their names on the monument in front of the town hall. Some died as a direct result of combat, and others died during their service for other reasons. For us today, there is little difference, as they all lost their lives while serving our nation's interests during a time of war. I ask you to consider visiting the monument and say their names out loud in remembrance so that their memories are never lost to time. You may know that on Jefferson Street there is the Newell Blaze Post 443 VFW building. The post was co-named after Frederick Blaze. Who was he? Frederick Blaze was the son of Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Blaze and lived at 456 North Washington Street. At the time of his enlistment in December of 1917, he worked as many other residents of the area did as a jeweler. As a service member, Private Blaze became a member of the 55th Regiment Coast Artillery Corps in 1918. The unit was made up of various coastal artillery batteries from throughout the New England area. The unit was eventually activated for deployment and was converted to operate French 155 millimeter long-range guns. They were to be a mobile, land-based field artillery unit. Private Blaze was a member of the regiment's Alpha Battery. On the 3rd of October, 1918, his battery was positioned out in the open with no cover and concealment. It was on this day that he lost his life during a German attack on his position. It took 2 more days before his unit was finally able to move to a more sheltered and secure location. Private Blaze died at the age of 24 and is now resting in St. Mary's Cemetery over on Town Street. Unfortunately, the war to end all wars did not fulfill its legacy. 2.5 decades later, 1,225 citizens of North Attleboro served in the armed forces during World War II. 49 of them lost their lives in service, including 2 pairs of brothers, the Lorden brothers and the Hall brothers. All of these names can be found on the monument in front of the World War II Memorial Pool, which is also located next to the town hall. One of the brothers I mentioned earlier was Private First Class Francis P. Lorden, United States Marine Corps. Francis lived at 109 Richards Ave before enlisting in the Marine Corps in October of 1943. He was a 1935 graduate of North Attleboro High School. Before enlisting, he worked in the Fore River Shipyard in Quincy. Private First Class Lorden was posthumously awarded the Silver Star for his conspicuous gallantry while serving in Echo Company, 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division. On the 6th of May, 1945, in action against enemy Japanese forces on Okinawa, he quickly estimated the tactical situation when his entire fire team was struck down as they moved toward a vital enemy position. Private First Class Lorden determined that evacuation of the wounded was imperative before covering fire in support of the planned assault could be effected, and voluntarily crawled forward alone to rescue his helpless comrades. Crossing open terrain 3 times, he carried his fellow Marines to safety, thereby enabling his company to bring accurate covering fire to bear and subsequently to overrun the hostile enemy strongpoint. Unfortunately, Private First Class Lorden would never leave Okinawa. A little over a month after his heroic actions, he was killed in action on the 13th of June at the age of 28. This was 9 days before the American forces secured the island in an 82-day campaign. He was the 38th North Attleboro son to die during the war. 5 years after the end of World War II, America became involved in another war, this time in Korea. About 450 of North Attleboro's young men, some of them World War II veterans, served during that war. Unfortunately, 3 of them were killed in action, while 4 others died during service due to non-combat related incidents. The beautiful monument to my left was erected to commemorate those who served during that conflict. As with all our monuments in town, I urge you to please consider taking the time to visit and say the names of the honored dead. Robert Hill was one of those killed in action. He came from the Falls section of North Attleboro and lived at 26 Cottage Street. He attended North Attleboro High School for 2 years before going to work for the Mason Box Company. Work weeks and free weekends were his life. He loved horses and cars, as well as movies and girls. Bobby was eventually drafted into the Army in October of 1950. On the 21st of March, 1952, U.S. Army Corporal Robert H. Hill was keeping watch at Outpost Erie, which was located near Chowan, South Korea. The outpost rose 120 feet above the valley floor to its south, which was crisscrossed with rice paddies. It was a Friday, the 2nd day of spring. It was pitch black and impossible to see. The outpost had been probed 2 nights in a row by the Chinese allies of the North Koreans. An attack was expected. Tensions were high. Some days earlier, Hill had written a letter home. Remember this. In it, he said that he was a month away from being moved out of the combat zone. He'd be home in June or July. He also said that he was recommended for a Bronze Star Medal. In the dark of night, the searing flash of flares signaled the start of a firefight with the Chinese, who started to claw their way up while strafing the bunkers with machine gun fire. 2 hours later, they reached the top. Early in the morning of the 22nd of March, Hill, along with 7 others, died defending the outpost in close quarters combat. That was 2 days before Hill's 24th birthday. An Army telegram was sent informing Hill's father, also named Robert Hill, about his son's death. A story in the Attleboro Sun on March 27th said that Hill's last letter and the telegram arrived at the Hill residence on the same day. Over a decade later, 1968 proved to be a terrible year for North Attleboro. 4 of North Attleboro's sons were killed that year during combat in Vietnam. All 4 names are carved into this beautiful monument to my right. Again, I ask you to consider visiting the monument and say their names out loud in remembrance so that their memories are never lost to time. One of those sons was Marine Gunnery Sergeant Paul Edward Robitaille, who was born on the 30th of June, 1935. He grew up on East Street, where Paul liked to join pickup games of baseball and football. He played baseball for North Attleboro High School and was also a member of the band and the yearbook staff. Paul graduated in 1953 and quickly joined the service. It was also around that time that he met and fell in love with Joan Howard, who lived on Grove Street. The couple was married in 1957 and would have 4 sons. Paul had his first tour of duty in Vietnam during the early stages of the war and was later stationed for a while in Hawaii. As he entered his 30s, he was sent to the naval base in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which was ideal for his family because it was quiet, close to home, and far from the escalating war in Vietnam. As the fighting escalated, so did Paul's belief that he must serve his country again. He accepted another tour of duty just as the Viet Cong launched the Tet Offensive. Paul arrived in Vietnam for duty on the 24th of January, 1968, where he was assigned to my company, 3rd Battalion, 26th Marines, 3rd Marine Division. 1 month later, the 3rd Battalion was deployed in northern Quang Tri Province in defense of the Khe Sanh Combat Base. My company was assigned defense of Hill 881 South, which was located approximately 8 kilometers west-northwest of the base's airfield. On the 23rd of February, the Marines' defensive position on Hill 881 South was hit with 3 rounds of enemy artillery fire. 2 Marines were killed by the deadly exploding shrapnel. One of the casualties was Gunnery Sergeant Robitaille. Joan's worst fears were realized just 1 month after Paul arrived in Vietnam. Not by a knock on the door from a military entourage or even a phone call. She read in a Boston newspaper story that listed her husband as one of the day's casualties. A funeral mass was held at St. Mary's Church, where Paul had been baptized and where he and Joan were married. The town's citizens mournfully lined the streets to St. Mary's Cemetery in Attleboro Falls, where he is buried. Paul E. Robitaille Way is a street in a well-kept subdivision on the west side of town, is named in his honor. 39 years would pass before our town would lose another son in a combat theater of operations. Captain Kyle Van de Giesen, United States Marine Corps, is a 1998 graduate of North Attleboro High School. As a talented student athlete at the school, Kyle established himself as a natural-born leader while quarterbacking his team to a Super Bowl victory in his senior year. Kyle was later recruited to St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire. There, he was also quarterback of the school's varsity football team. In addition to his commitments during the academic year, Kyle also attended Officer Candidate School in Quantico, Virginia, during the summers of 1999 and 2000. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant United States Marine Corps in 2002 and later earned his aviator wings in 2004. In 2006, Kyle proposed to Megan Francis just before he left on his first tour in Iraq. They were later married when he returned from his deployment. Kyle would later deploy to Iraq a second time. During his military career, Captain Eric Fleming described Kyle as among the most capable and decisive leaders I have ever known. He said that Kyle was the kind of guy who made the Marine Corps better. In 2009, Kyle Van de Giesen was assigned to Marine Light Attack Helicopter Squadron 169, Marine Aircraft Group 39, 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing, 1 Marine Expeditionary Force. His unit eventually operated at Forward Operating Base Dwyer in Afghanistan in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. During this, his 3rd deployment, Kyle was awarded an Air Medal with a V device for heroic actions he took on the 19th of May during a 6-hour firefight that occurred when the Taliban launched weapons against U.S. troops. When his wingman was hit, Kyle flew his helicopter between his wingman and the enemy to suppress the attack in a high-risk action that resulted in 0 American casualties. Months later, on the 26th of October, Kyle was asked at the last minute to fill in for another pilot on a flight mission. Kyle was piloting a UH-1 or Huey helicopter when his craft collided with a two-person AH-1 Cobra helicopter. All 4 men aboard both aircraft died in the accident. This was 10 days before his unit was scheduled to return home from a nearly 8-month-long deployment. Kyle was buried in the Massachusetts National Cemetery in Bourne with full military honors. 4 days later, his son Colin Joseph was born. Today, Kyle's entire family finds meaning in the Captain Kyle Rolf Van de Giesen Memorial Award Fund, which supports students who uphold the Marine Corps' values of honor, courage, and commitment. The people that I talked about here today are only a few of North Attleboro's honored dead. Let our voices speak the names of the fallen, and let our actions honor the values by which they lived. Visit our monuments and say their names. I want to thank you for your time today. I wish everyone a meaningful Memorial Day. God bless the families of our fallen veterans. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. Stay up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd ask you once again to please stand as we render honors to our fallen comrades. I would invite the Council Vice President, Lieutenant Colonel Mayor, to join me as we lay a wreath in honor of the fallen. Color guards, bring your units to attention and present arms. Bring your units to order arms and parade rest. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, we'll have the Colonial Pipers play Amazing Grace. Thank you, Colonial Pipers. And ladies and gentlemen, one more time, we're going to hear from North Attleboro's own high school band. At this time, I'd ask you to stand one more time for our closing prayer. Chaplain Manny.
Holy One, we gather here in your presence as a community, in solemn remembrance of those who have given their lives in service to country. Remember the loved ones and those who may be strangers to us. Each of us in our own way reaches out in prayer and supplication, seeking your solace and consolation, so that we might be agents of compassion and grace to those who grieve. God of grace and peace, we give thanks for freedom and justice, for the opportunity to join together to build a better society for the generations still to come. We give thanks for those who, whether by choice or not, gave their lives for their neighbors. May the memory of their sacrifice live on in our hearts and minds. We come in spirit of peace, remembering that war has many casualties, that there are those who have died in battle, there are those who are left behind. Their lives forever changed by the loss of their spouse, their parent, their child, their friend, and comrade. We remember those who suffer in the result of war, injury, disability, mental distress. We pray too for those who are caught in the middle of the conflict, for those homeless, the refugee, the hungry, and those who mourn the dead. Even as we pause to remember those who died or who have suffered, we pray for our leaders of this country and every country in the world, that they might be guided by such wisdom that peace might prevail. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for coming out today and for those that helped put this ceremony together. You've heard some great inspirational talks about today's date. You've heard the names of the individuals. Please have a safe and wonderful holiday weekend, and remember, never forget. Thank you.